Remember last year where the Cleveland Browns were almost synonymous with the word expectations? Whenever you heard the word expectations when it came to sports, the Cleveland Browns tended to follow because there were a ton of expectations that some say weighted this team down. Now, this year, when you say expectations, I think that word should be synonymous with the Baltimore Ravens, who have massive expectations this year. So I got Engraven videos with me on the second part of this interview to talk about those expectations and to ask the question, is this year Super Bowl or bust for Lamar Jackson? Real quick before this video starts, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, especially if you're new here. You don't want to miss any of the content. It's game week. The NFL season has just started, so you don't want to miss any content. So hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing. One of the things we touched on in the first part of our interview, and I think is going to be really interesting, is the expectations of this Baltimore Ravens team. The success of last year was great, but also it comes with a lot of expectations. You know, Lamar won the MVP. People are kind of expecting him as a young quarterback. Maybe he has to top that. Maybe he has to equal that amount, or maybe he has to have a season at least on par with the MVP season where he went 14-2. Like that's an amazingly high bar to set. And I think when that bar is that high, you have to ask yourself this question, like, is it Super Bowl or bust for this Ravens team, and specifically for Lamar Jackson, who's been kind of criticized, I think a little bit unfairly, about not winning his last two playoff games?
Well, yeah, it is Super Bowl or bust. And the reason I say that is because of the moves that they made to really bolster this team, especially on defense. On defense, they, in the playoff game specifically, I think Ravens, this entire offseason, and their theme has been remember the Titans. That's because the Titans, they had their way with them at the line of scrimmage, both on offense and defense. Derrick Henry, Ravens they couldn't set the edge and run defense. So they got Calais Campbell, they got a Derek Wolfe to help in run defense. And they needed some more speed at linebacker, so they brought a Patrick Queen. They drafted a Malik Harrison too, so they upgraded there. And then on offense, in the playoff game, it was just drop after drop after drop after drop after drop. So who did they draft at receiver? They drafted Devin Duvernay and James Prochet, and those two receivers, they are known for not dropping the ball like at all. So Ravens, they upgraded in the sense they upgraded their weaknesses from that playoff game. So I'm not even thinking it is Super Bowl or bust because you don't make the moves that you made, and you don't go from the seasons that you've had over the past couple of years to it being, oh, well, if we make the playoffs, it is Super Bowl or bust. Even with the whole Lamar Jackson Ravens, they're 0-2 in the playoffs the past 2 years. It's still Super Bowl or bust, man, because they've assembled a roster that's ready. They had a roster last year that was ready, but obviously came up short. But this year, it's no different. It's time, especially when it comes to contracts, too, because a lot of these guys who are here right now, they're going to be going next year, man.
I think another interesting thing, if you look at just the career path of Lamar Jackson, his first year, he was a rookie. You know, they already got Joe Flacco there to start. They're going to ease him, and, not a ton of, weight on his shoulders. Then that second year, there were some expectations, no doubt, but I don't think people, nationally at least, thought that team was going to be as good as they were last year. I remember a lot of people thinking maybe 10-6, 9-7 for that Ravens team, but not anything like 14-2. This year's completely different. The eyeballs are on him. People are kind of expecting a lot out of him. Some people predicting 16-0. The expectations have taken a considerable jump for the offseason portion of it. Like, they were like that during the season, but the offseason, during camp, all of this, the expectations have been high. One, how do you feel like Lamar is going about handling that? Because it's got to be something new to him. And two, how do you think that's going to affect this team, if at all?
With the expectations, I don't think they're really stunting that at all. I don't think they're sweating it at all because of what they've already been through. They have an expectation for themselves, man. Last year, they said, Lamar came out and said it, that we overlooked the Titans. We were looking past them. We thought we were the better team, and we were looking past them. But Harbaugh came out and said, oh, well, we just didn't execute. So both of those two had different reasonings on why they lost in the playoff game. But whatever the reasoning is, they lost. They lost in the playoffs. They lost when it mattered the most. But that doesn't take away from the regular season. The regular season, you got to do good in the regular season in order to get to the playoffs. So I think, and I know the whole your favorite ESPN, not ESPN anymore, FS1, Mr. Colin Coward. He talked about the Ravens going 16-0. I would not even want them to go 16-0, man. I wouldn't even want that. I would be happy with, but I wouldn't want it because I want them to get all the mistakes out, get all the bad coaching games out, get all that out during the regular season. Because if you go 16-0, that's cool, but you won't have experienced defeat, and you don't want your first loss to come in the postseason. But Ravens, my expectations for them, I think a high of 13-3, or a low of 11-5. And I factor in their roster. They got a pretty good roster on offense. I think that's where it's going to be the biggest question mark as far as the other receivers besides Hollywood Brown, because there's a lot of question marks there. Of course, they have Willie Snead, that former Brown, and they got Miles Boykin, who was very raw last year, and then Devin Duvernay and James Prochet, rookies. So it's a lot more questions than answers at receiver right now. So we'll see how they do starting in week 1. But as far as I would say high 13-3, a low of 11-5. But definitely, it is back to what I was saying, Super Bowl or bust.
You did mention something interesting when it comes to the playoff games with Lamar. How's he been handling it? Has he been letting that become a thing? Because sometimes you can kind of talk yourself into that becoming a thing mentally for him. Has he been just like, kind of like, I don't want to say laissez-faire about it, but like, has it seemed like something that's like bugged him? Because I know sometimes that can lead to that becoming more, manifesting itself to more of an issue.
Well, I mean, he's had a countless number of interviews, of course, especially with all the attention that he's been getting as the MVP, as a cover of Madden and all that. And they always do ask the question. But he said he's tired of going home. He's tired of losing the playoffs, and they know what they need to do. So with all the outside pressure that comes from the people asking them the questions during the interviews and whatnot, and the different commentators and analysts and experts and whatnot, like, oh, Lamar Jackson and Ravens, they're 0-2 in the playoffs. That's, of course, that gets circulated like crazy. But he has been addressing it head on. He knows that they haven't won in the playoffs. He knows that they're 0-2 in the playoffs. So hearing it from outsiders or whatnot, it doesn't seem like it really phases him, because he knows what he got to do. He knows what they got to do as a team, and like they of course got to get it done in the regular season, but they got to get it done in the postseason as well. And it's funny, he's not with the team anymore, but at the Pro Bowl last year, Earl Thomas, he made a really, really, really good point when he was talking to Lamar Jackson on the sideline. And he told him, he said, hey, we got to treat every single game like it's the Super Bowl, and we cannot look past any team, because that was them pretty much acknowledging that they look past the Titans. And that's important. That's really important, because every single game counts. Every single game matters. And if you treat every single game with that importance, then you're not going to overlook anybody. You're not going to feel like, oh, yeah, we better than them, so we ain't really got to put in as much work. We ain't got to work as hard to get this win. You're going to treat every single game with that high level of importance. So that's super important, and that's critical if they want to maintain a regular season success in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, and I think also something to add to your point you made earlier about not wanting to go 16-0. People forget that the Ravens, their 12-game win streak at the end of that season was kind of spurred by 2 back-to-back losses against Kansas City and then at home against Cleveland. So, it's like those 2 losses kind of made them realize there were some changes, definite changes that need to happen on that defense. They made those free agent pickups with L.J. Fort, Josh Bynes, and they started to fix that thing. Made the trade for Marcus Peters as well. Like losing early on, like it stinks to lose in division, but it's not something you can't recover from. And it's also something that if you use it right, you can always get better from. Let's talk about this defense, because they're kind of expected to take a step up there. But also, you don't know what you're getting at the linebacking position with all those rookies that you guys are planning on playing. And stopping the run was a big thing this offseason. It was a big focus. Do you think the youth at linebacker is going to be affecting their ability to stop the run as much veteran leadership as they have on that defensive line?
Oh, for sure. Because Patrick Queen, as much as they talk about him, as positive as the reviews have been on him from training camp, he is slated to be a starter, but he is still a rookie. No rookie is going to come in and be absolutely perfect. The rookies are going to make mistakes. So I do, and especially with them not having had any preseason, it's going to be a lot of OJT, a lot of on-the-job training, because they didn't have that time to go up against other teams yet. So it's going to be a lot of stuff that he's learning along the way, and he's going to make mistakes. It's not going to start off I hope it does start off really nice, but I don't expect it to start off squeaky clean. I expect him to go through his hiccups, him and Malik Harrison. But I'm glad we do have LJ Fort, so we have some veteran presence there in the middle. But as far as the rookies and whatnot, yeah, I do expect them to have their hiccups in the beginning of the season, but as the season progresses, for them to, of course, get better. But now, with Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison, one thing about them is that they are in a really good situation to sort of mess up because of the defensive line that's in front of them, a lot of veteran presence there. And then behind them with the secondary, a lot of veteran presence there. But they are still the nucleus of the defense, being those inside linebackers. But they are in a good position because they have a very, very good supporting cast.
I have to ask you this about this Ravens team. If there is one thing, or even if there's a couple of things on this team that worry you or that you feel like could be kind of an Achilles heel of this Ravens team, what is it about this Ravens team essentially that keeps you up at night, that makes you worried that this could be something that's going to hurt this team's ability to meet those expectations?
One of the things that I worry about is who is really going to step it up at wide receiver, especially when it matters most. Last season, of course, Hollywood hurt all season, and when it mattered most, he stepped all the way up in that playoff game. But we didn't really have anybody else who really stepped up like that. And I'm just wondering who is going to be that guy. Obviously, Browns, y'all have, if Odell ain't getting it, then Jarvis could get it. But with the Ravens, we just don't know yet. We don't know yet. Like I said earlier, it's a lot more questions than answers at the receiver position. So that's something to think about. And another thing, one that a lot of people not necessarily forget about, but aren't talking about as much, is the right guard position. At right, and my guy Josh Hoffman always brings this up, but at right guard, the loss of Marshall Yonder. And right now it's expected that a rookie, Tyree Phillips, is going to start at right guard. So he is massive, but at the same time, when you're going from a Hall of Fame right guard, somebody who could play every position on an offensive line, to a rookie, or even if DJ Fluker ends up winning it out this week as a starter. But whoever you go to from Marshall Yonder, there's expected to be a level of drop-off. And with that possible level of drop-off, I just hope it doesn't drop off too much to the point where we really notice, like, oh, man, Marshall Yonder's gone. We really miss him. So I would say, yeah. So receiver, the depth at receiver, and whoever's going to take that right guard spot, and just the quality of their play.
I know Orlando Brown plays right tackle for you guys. Do you worry about, Orlando Brown not having that Hall of Fame veteran next to him being something that could affect him? Because, again, I think Orlando Brown fell in the draft a large amount to where he came in because, in part, he didn't have the quickest feet in the world. He couldn't cover the most ground. And that kind of being next to Marshall Yanda, as far as, and also the veteran presence that Marshall Yanda brings, kind of has helped him out, I would assume. Do you think that could possibly be another concern with him at right tackle?
And that's something I never really thought about either, even with thinking about the Marshall Yanda. And so that is that could be a concern too, because now, depending on if the rookie Tyree Phillips does end up starting, then that makes Orlando Brown the veteran on the right side. So he would be that leader. He would be that guy to sort of maybe get the rookie in line. So, yeah, I never thought about that, but that could be concerning as well.
Definitely, man. There's a lot to think about with this Ravens team. It's a lot to think about every team in the AFC North. I want to thank you again for coming on this video. Make sure y'all subscribe to Engraven Vids. Engraven, you got anything to say to him before you head out?
Hey, appreciate you having me on. Team, keep it clean. It's going to be a crazy season, as it always is. And, hey, just thank you. Thank you for rocking with us. Appreciate you, Quincy. Man, when did we first start collabing? Back last year, training camp, a little before then. But, yeah, man, I do appreciate it, man. And happy to see your channel keep growing, keep pushing. And hopefully by the end of this, by the end of this season, you'll definitely be at least 20K. At least. Probably more, but at least 20K. So let's keep getting it, man.
Y'all heard that. Engraven said it. Y'all got to make it happen. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure I hit 20K because Engraven said so. Like Stone Cold. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.